Hello, my name is Mackenzie Shin, and this is my OMNI presentation for Social 101 Honors. The title of my presentation is Examining the Impact of Racial Discrimination on Asian Americans During the COVID-19 Pandemic, a Survey Study. The reason why I chose this topic was obviously being Asian American myself, it interested me and just in our society recently, from not only just the pandemic recently, but also just in general of the racial discrimination and racism that all Asian Americans have experienced or just dealt with. The overview of my presentation will be background information, the purpose of this presentation, research data behind racial discrimination against Asian Americans, and the data I received from my personal survey, and all the sources that I cited, and to end it all off, conclusion of my presentation. Background information. Racial discrimination has been an issue we have been fighting as early as the 1700s or as late as the 19th century. It is a worldwide problem that many individuals experience personally or from others' past experiences. Ever since the COVID outbreak, it has caused racial discrimination against Asian Americans to increase rapidly. These hateful acts can be both verbal or physical that can affect one's mental and physical health. It can lead to depression and even suicide. Purpose. With this information, I hope to bring more attention and awareness to this topic. Even when this issue is being globally addressed and getting a lot of immediate attention, it is something I believe that is looked past by often. Many people have the idea that since this problem is not happening to them, they could care less. However, this issue is something that everyone should care, even if it does not relate to you, your family members, friends, or even individuals who are not the same ethnic group as you. What I mean by this issue is still addressed but is looked past by often is many people may know someone, or many people may hear these stories of racism or racial discrimination like done against them, but they just listen and just think like, oh, that's like obviously that does like isn't right, isn't good, but they just seem to think like, oh, if it's not happening to me or it's not happening to anyone that is related to me or close to me, why should I really care? And that is an issue that many people have because them themselves have not experienced it, so they don't really know the issue. They don't really know the impact on a deeper level. So they just sort of like let it go. I guess they sort of just let it fly by their heads and just be like, oh, that is unfortunate for them, but it doesn't affect me. And that is a sort of thing that I think everyone should be more aware of, that even though it does not affect you, it affects many people in our communities, our society, and globally. That is a problem that a lot of people face, a lot of people are affected by mentally and physically. So even though it does not relate to you or anyone near you, you should still show support and still try to make an impact in this, because this is still your community, your society, and your world. Research data. This picture of a graph is from USC and is about percentage of people experiencing discrimination and unfair treatment due to people thinking the person might have the coronavirus. All the subjects are either non-Hispanic whites, Asians, non-Hispanic blacks, Hispanics, and other ethnic groups. The leading group or the leading ethnic group in this graph is Asians, which is 14%, and the second is non-Hispanic blacks. The third is Hispanics, tied with 6% with other ethnic groups, and the least amount is non-Hispanic whites, which is at 4%. Obviously in this graph, you can tell that a lot of the minorities are looked at against that they might have coronavirus, but the leading is Asian Americans or just Asians, which is not very, I guess, surprising because in the first bullet point of my research data, it says Chinese communities are often perceived as public health problems in Western societies that have a factor in the increase in racial discrimination towards Chinese Americans and other Asian Americans. Combining these two information, you can kind of assume or predict that Asian Americans or Asians would be the most, I guess, most understanding, that people would predict that they would have the coronavirus. And obviously because of the news articles about where COVID has originated from China, Wuhan. But the thing is that even though there's a lot of these predictions and a lot of these stories and news articles about it, it's still not confirmed that it happened in China. They still do not know where COVID originated from and all that. But it's a thing that many people just do not educate themselves about, that they just maybe just read the title of news articles or titles of news outlets, but they don't really look into it, educate themselves, or read it. So, or they may just share information from the news, or not news, from the internet or from other people around them, but they also have the issue of not educating themselves fully and just hearing what they believe. So that causes a lot of problems, and may think that, oh wow, like this problem is really caused by Chinese Americans or by China and all that. So they have that thought process like, oh, this issue is happening because of them. And yeah, and they think that the right thing to do is to, do these hateful acts against them, either physical or mentally. The second bullet point is there's a significant large effect between de-stress and discrimination, and a larger effect with minorities. And the third one is COVID-19 related discrimination has a negative effect on life satisfaction, meaning an increased level of depression. Combining these two, obviously, this shows that racial discrimination does have an effect with your mental health, with either stress or signs of depression. And it shows that this happens a lot more often, or not a lot more, but it shows a bigger effect with minorities. That may be with a lot of struggles that they already have in their life with being a minority and all that, but it just shows that being racially discriminated does affect you mentally. And with that said, with levels of depression and stress, that could lead to suicide. And the last bullet point is the reports stating anxiety and depressive symptoms have increased 7 times during the outbreak compared to results in 2019. This piece of information to me was the most surprising, in my opinion, because just the reports, or just the increase that it has since the outbreak 7 times, is simply wow. It's just, I didn't, like, first reading this, I thought it was fake. I thought like how could it increase that much? 7 times is just, eye-opening. But it does make sense a little bit, that because of since the pandemic, there is a lot of stress going around, and just overwhelming problems and struggles that everyone experiences, whether their business going down, them losing their jobs or homes, family members, friends, all that. I do agree that is part of the issue too, but there also is, I predict, a correlation between the increase in racial discrimination, and because of that, there is more levels of anxiety and depressive symptoms. Survey test data. I predict that there was correlation in the Asian American population between the factors of discrimination and negative mental health. To do so, I conducted my own survey consisting of 46 Asian Americans who took the survey test, and I asked questions about personal experiences of racial discrimination in their everyday life, or if they knew anyone who did. And some of these questions asked, obviously, if you have experienced racial discrimination or not, and if you have or know anyone who has, what was the interaction like? What happened in this interaction? After this interaction, were you mentally affected, physically or mentally? How did this impact your everyday life after? So, and questions like those. In my survey, out of the 46, 37 of those Asian Americans has experienced racial discrimination in their daily lives. And out of those 37, 28 of them have said that yes, it has affected their mental health negatively. Reading some of these results and data from my survey, it was actually surprising me of some of these altercations and interactions that I've experienced. One of them being that they were spat on in the face, and obviously some of these are like common in racial discrimination with racial slurs, things like that. But it's still surprising that how much hate that Asian Americans receive because of the pandemic, because of this issue that people have put that since, or like they predict that COVID has come from China, that so many people are saying things like go back to your country, or like, just things that I don't even want to say, obviously, but just things like that may not seem like it hurts, it's just words, but it really does. It really hurts when you're not welcome in this country that you thought was free, that you thought this country was something that you could feel welcome, some place where you can feel like I am allowed to do what I desire to do, what I love to do, what I want to do, and in a place where you live, where you're scared of your own health and your family's health, your friends' health. It is something that's really scary, something that can affect us mentally and could really give us a lot of stress and depression. So it is an issue that is really big. We're excited. These articles or scholarly articles are all sources I used in my presentation. And lastly, my conclusion. This pandemic has caused many problems, one of them being a rise in racial discrimination. And from my presentation, the data I've shown you, there's an increase in stress and depressive symptoms in Asian Americans. But the ultimate issue, in my opinion, is that all of this can lead to suicide. And obviously we know racial discrimination does not only affect Asians, but all races. And because of this, I believe that we should spread more awareness about racial discrimination, and not only just worry about ourselves, but worry about our community, our society, and just people around us, and try to make an impact in any way we can. Some other negative effects of racism or racial discrimination can be, obviously as discussed, depression, poor sleep, obesity, inflammation, anxiety, and eating disorders. And my last question to you is, as a community and society, what can we do to prevent this? What can we do more to make our communities safer, to make everyone to feel like they live in a place where they do not have to fear about going outside or getting hurt. They don't have to fear about their children being in a place where, like, wow, my kid is not safe, or I'm not safe, just my parents are not safe. Just everyone can just feel welcome and just feel safe in a society where we don't have to worry about these hateful acts towards them, so, or us. But that is my presentation, and thank you for listening.